What if I told you that the Jedi mind trick, you know, these are not the droids you're looking for, what if I told you that that was real? That in fact, many people in the real world can completely change your perception of reality just by telling you a story. Hey everybody, John the Other here, obviously. And today I want to talk about a superpower that exists in the real world that some people have. And it's essentially the Jedi mind trick, which you may remember from the very first Star Wars movie where Ben Kenobi and I guess Luke Skywalker are in like a floating car and they get stopped at a checkpoint and there's a couple of white uniformed stormtroopers who are looking for two droids and the Jedi guy goes, "These are not the droids you're looking for," and the weak-minded troopers go, "These are not the droids we're looking for," and then he says, "We may go," and the guy says, "Go ahead." That's the Jedi mind trick. And women can perform the Jedi mind trick. It's a superpower. Nobody talks about it. And that's a little surprising. Now, to give you an example of the Jedi mind trick in action, I'm going to play a clip of an old video, which I'll link in the low bar of this, and then we can talk about what just happened. Watch.
Why did you come into my room like this?
Piss out the window.
Why did you come into my room and the three of you threaten me like this? Why did you come in here and threaten me like this? Please get out of my room. Please get out of my room.
Now this guy is confused. He's been brought in to be the enforcer and to, you know, mete out some sort of punishment onto the tenant who has actually the tenant who has been assaulted by this woman. And the enforcer is confused because the story that the woman is telling of her being the victim doesn't conform to what he is actually seeing happening in the apartment with her physically assaulting the guy and then refusing to leave. Now that the woman who is setting up this whole story is no longer present in the room, and her physical presence and refusal to leave and her aggression is no longer visible, it's no longer present in real time to conflict with the story that she has been telling of herself being the victim, she's gone now, her two enforcers can get back to their fantasy and their assigned role, which is set up for them, which is to go assault this guy, which they proceed to do. So that video depicts a woman who is actually the landlord. So she owns the building, although the guy doing the recording is a tenant and he's renting that space, but renting it, he's having his home invaded by the landlord and her protectors, enforcers, who knows what. And she begins carrying on as if instead of her invading his space, he's holding her hostage and threatening her. It's clear in the video that no such thing is happening, but she's then doing her bad acting and refusing to leave. Well, the door's right there. Just go out the door. And the guys who are with her, they can't really respond to her narrative that she's under threat, that she's been assaulted or that she's been threatened and so on, because her physical behavior is clearly the opposite of the story that she's trying to portray. And it's not until she leaves and she is no longer present that they are able to go back to their narrative, which was created by her, and then they physically assault him. When the woman is gone and no longer creating an actual discontinuity between reality and the story, and they're just working from supposed memory or fantasy, then they go back onto the track of being her white knights and assaulting this guy. That's the Jedi mind trick. That woman convinced those guys of a reality that was not true, and then they went and enacted violence on her behalf. I had 3 colleagues, 3 women I used to work with at a place a couple of years back, who, between the 3 of them, created a fictional version of the work environment in which our employer, the owner and operator of the business where we all worked, was incompetent and sinister and cruel and malicious towards all of us. That was the created narrative. And having studied this kind of thing before, I was the one that helped to disrupt that narrative and get these 3 exited, removed from the business. And it took many months to do it. We had to do it one at a time. We had to be very careful. We broke up the schedule so that they couldn't work together ever. But these three women in a work environment very nearly created a false reality for all of the employees to then turn aggressively against the people employing them and essentially destroy the business. Thankfully, that didn't happen. This is the Jedi mind trick. Working in the real world, women have this power. And it explains very neatly why we still have mythology that we have a rape culture. That's the Jedi mind trick being played on a society-wide scale. There's no rape culture, and yet our politicians and public policy people keep talking about it like it is. It's the Jedi mind trick. It's the superpower that women have to create a false reality, tell you about it, and have you believe it. So the question is, why does the female version of the Jedi mind trick work? And it does work, as we have just seen. But why does it work? Well, I think, this is just my theory, and somebody with a better idea than me, please come in and prove me wrong. But here's my theory, is men depend on female approval for their public identity. That, you know, you're a good man, you're a decent human being, you're a pillar of the community. It's the female conferral of positive identity onto men that makes them susceptible to the Jedi mind trick, because they have to please the woman. And when you have shed that, when you have adapted your own psychology that you not only no longer need that conferred approval, but you in fact reject it, the Jedi mind trick, the female version, will no longer work on you. It will be glaring in its obviousness. So this is the end notes section of the video, and I just wanted to talk briefly about an article, actually a couple of articles I've seen online. There is apparently a growing movement to ban and to prohibit the development and use and sale of humanized sex robots, specifically sex robots that are, you know, developed or built to look like women. Apparently, and this is what the campaign says, the campaign against sex robots states, "We believe in the benefits of robots and technologies to our society and human cultures, but we want to ensure that robotics develops ethically and that we do not reproduce inequalities with their development that could further reinforce disturbing human lived experiences." In other words, it's okay to replace factory workers with robots, or, you know, janitors, or even expert technicians. That's all fine. But if you replace your girlfriend, no, that's very bad. So replacing men is okay, replacing women is bad. The hypocrisy is stunning. And it is not, by the way, as if women do not already enjoy a wide variety of consumer robotic technologies shaped like the anatomy of a man. You know, sex toys. Anyway, I just thought that was very funny, and as the technology progresses, the hypocrisy proceeds along with it at the same pace. Thanks a lot for listening, and have a lovely day.